Things are absolutely heating up in the week leading up to the release of much bored film Captain Marvel. Both the damage control crowd and the hype crowd are now at a fever pitch. The damage control train is off the rails. Meanwhile, the hype train is also off the rails. You see websites like comicbook.com, which is mostly a shill website, saying that the film is likely to do nearly 100 million just in opening weekend in the Chinese box office. Now, that's some incredible numbers. Tracking for Brie Larson starring superhero film is expected to bring 85 to 95 million in its 3-day opening in China, which would put it on pace with Captain America Civil War, but advanced ticket sales that are very impressive, with sales 76% higher than Spider-Man Homecoming, 35% higher than Civil War. Infinity War is the only film Captain Marvel hasn't beat in advanced ticket sales in China. So this is pretty interesting. The Chinese market is not to be trifled with. We see it completely affecting the development cycle to what is getting developed for gamers in the West. We see companies like Blizzard paying more attention to developing crappy mobile apps that just make a fortune in China because the sheer amount of people that are there. And now we're talking about a film getting buoyed by $100 million in China. That's no small amount of money. The continued excitement and early success of Captain Marvel stands in contrast to the criticism from a certain cranky groups of people on the internet who have been complaining about various aspects of the film despite its not being open in theaters. Now, I'm not sure. I don't see a lot of people complaining about the film itself other than, you know, the fact that they shoehorned in Captain Marvel right before Endgame so that people would have to see it and they would capitalize on the hype for Endgame. That's just good business decision making. But I haven't seen a lot of complaints about plot, so this would seem to be a demonstrably false statement from comicbook.com. However, they go on to say, including Larson's request for more diversity, inclusive press tour, as well as complaints that the actress doesn't smile in the poster for a film. A fairly ridiculous complaint that Larson herself addressed in an interview with Yahoo. That's just the depiction of the female experience. That's what it's like. It didn't bother me that much when I saw it was a reaction on social media. It's how it goes. That's right. Stunning and brave. People want to see a smile. You don't smile, so you are overcoming rampant sexism, of course. The film's co-director, Anna Boden, also weighed in on the backlash, noting that the scene in which Carol is told to smile in the film was a deliberate choice representative of what many women hear on a regular basis regarding their appearance. I would say I've told men to smile just as often. The projections for Captain Marvel at the domestic box office also continue to be strong despite, quote, outrage controversies, including that some flooding Rotten Tomatoes audience anticipation ratings with negative, largely misogynistic comments. That's also provably false. I saw a few spicy comments, but most people are simply downvoting it or saying that they're not interested because they don't like Captain Marvel. So a lot of times when a film gets really negative backlash, it's because of articles like this on comicbook.com, which is riddled with outright lies, narrative pushing, and an air of, you know, putting their own farts in a jar and smelling them. And I've often said that, yes, of course the movie's going to sell plenty of tickets. It's a Marvel movie. It's Marvel in 2019, where a flop is probably still going to make $300 million, $400, $500 million. That's still probably reasonable for Marvel films, given the gigantic juggernaut of budget and marketing that they have. It's no really any surprise. But we've seen a lot of backing off of really posting hard numbers. We've seen it start out as high as 180 million. That's domestic box office opening weekend. I haven't seen any numbers like that go on out publicly anywhere. We also talked about the Fandango ticket sales thing, and a few people did reach out to me to say that this is likely because of other movies not releasing their schedule yet, and we didn't notice it because nobody was really looking for other films, and it appears to be that is true. So the Fandango thing, at least they have a plausible case for why opening weekend, trying to buy tickets on opening weekend is only available to, for Captain Marvel. But it's interesting that some places had to address it. But then we talk about some more doubling down and continued damage control here with Captain Marvel. Director says it's a feminist movie and a humanist movie. Aww. That's great to hear. I'm definitely looking for feminism in my movies. It's a great way for me to spend $50 at the movie theater being preached at. I love it. In the weeks leading up to the release of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers' solo debut has also drawn its share of advanced praise and backlash for what many are regarding to be a feminist angle and in the first female-led movie of the MCU. Sure enough, in a recent soundbite, co-director Anna Boden said that the upcoming film is indeed a feminist movie. So you confirm, all right, albeit a humanist one as well. Sitting alongside her co-director, Ryan Fleck, the filmmaker, explained why they were drawn to the project. Yeah, not the millions of dollars, I'm sure. In part of the female heroine at the forefront, who's not just powerful, but complex and human. I mean, one thing that drew us to the character for sure was the fact that she's really powerful, really interesting, really unique, and an independent female character. Okay, but what about that has anything to do with feminism? And we are so excited to be telling this story about somebody who isn't just powerful, but also complicated and really interesting and really human. It's not just a feminist movie. It's also a humanist movie. How about it just being a movie? Boden went on to praise Brie Larson for the strength and depth she brings to the MCU's most powerful hero. Brie Larson in this role is so important because she is such a strong, such a dynamic and complex person and woman. She brings so much of that to the role. No doubt the same corners of the internet responsible for the ongoing backlash of Captain Marvel will use Boden's comments. Oh, interesting. No, it's interesting that you already know that we're going to laugh. But, you know, you say it anyway. I guess. Thanks. I appreciate it. But regardless, it's clear that the movie's headed for cinemas next week with a lot of positive buzz behind it. Fandango, for existence, reported that 2 weeks into the advanced film's release, it has already surpassed pre-sales for Aquaman and Wonder Woman, while Variety has a pick tracking for an impressive 100 million plus domestic opening. Now, that is still a far cry from the 180 million we saw people touting, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. We've also seen some interesting damage control. We saw, I don't know if they're referring to me or maybe Tim Pool, but we talked about how this article was out last week or so. Well, actually, just a few days ago. That must be when they updated it. Captain Marvel might not be the feminist phenomenon we want. But then I was pulling up this article to just refresh on the story. And essentially the TLDR, which I've already covered in another video, is that this is a huge hedge which says basically if Captain Marvel doesn't do good, that it's because of Marvel's marketing choices. You can say, remember at the end, Captain Marvel should not be associated or positioned as 2019's Black Panther. Captain Marvel needs to stand on its own ground. Carol Danvers should be Marvel's loud, powerful stance on women, and they're not just the MCU, but in our own universe and reality now. It does not need the in-house competition of Black Panther and should not be subjected to the Coliseum fight of minorities versus minorities. Both movies have their own stories to tell and should be given their space, time, and manner to let it shine through. But based on everything I've seen in Marvel's marketing campaign of Captain Marvel, this movie doesn't look like it'll reflect on what it actually means to be a woman, and that's disheartening. So it's interesting that on one hand you have articles talking about how it's outselling Black Panther, but then you have other articles that are saying, well, you know, even if it's doing great there, we shouldn't hold it to the same standard as Black Panther. By the way, Black Panther, in my opinion, was aggressively mediocre as a film. It was fine. I'd rather watch Ant-Man or Doctor Strange. I'm not kidding. But then you see they put out on top a disclaimer. A particular video from a dubious person acting in bad faith has been sharing our Captain Marvel article, misrepresenting our publication's viewpoints and supports misogynistic conspiracy theories, which we do not subscribe. We do not wish to be associated with these views as we are not our own. They are not our own, despite the misuse of our logo in the writer's name and the writer's name. Oh, well, they're probably not talking about me then. I assume. But, you know, you can see AP Marvel with tons of replies to this. Oh, wait, none at all. The damage control is pretty hilarious. And you have, you know, the New York Times publishing articles like, can Captain Marvel fix Marvel's woman problem? I don't understand how it fixes a problem that doesn't exist. But this is why. It's important to understand that this is why these are the type of articles that are getting critiqued more often, more so now especially, than the actual film. Or, I mean, is anyone even really talking about how Brie Larson said, you know, that there are too many white males in the film critic industry, or that she doesn't want to hear what a 40-year-old white guy has to say about a wrinkle in time because the movie wasn't made for him. You know, nobody's even talking about that anymore. And, you know, a lot of these articles are talking about how men are so, you know, trolly and misogynistic. Well, you know, I don't remember anyone complaining about Wonder Woman. I don't remember Wonder Woman getting review brigaded. It's going to be a very interesting week with, you know, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson coming out saying 2019 is about intersectional feminism. Captain Marvel actress Brie Larson declared 2019 is about intersectional feminism, the worst kind, by the way. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Larson responded to a question about Carol Danvers' relationship with Maria Rambeau, played by Lashana Lynch, and her daughter, and what she wanted to explore through their friendship. And she said, quote, I think because it's 2019, and 2019 is really is about intersectional feminism, that there's no question that we would have to show it, and it means to be all different kinds of women, that we don't have to be just one type. It became a great opportunity, even within things like a love story. We wanted to make sure that big love, that they lost love, that love that's found again, be with Carol's best friend, to show that incredibly powerful and gripping, that you could go into the ends of the earth and fight till the end for your best friend. I mean, are you saying that Brie Larson is, like, gay? I don't understand. I don't understand. You have Samuel L. Jackson chiming in saying, it's kind of crazy, too, that being Captain Marvel doesn't necessarily define you when you have to make the discovery of who Carol Danvers was when going on. She had a life before getting her powers. She was pretty BA already. That's the whole thing you should know. You are what we made you. It's like, that's some BS. Like, I was BA way before we got there. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I would expect to see some more sales numbers coming out in the very near future. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how things turn out. I hope you enjoyed this Sunday video. Damage control plus shill is in the full battle to the death here leading up to Friday's release of Captain Marvel. Hope you enjoyed. We'll talk to you again real soon.